Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Wow, the light is always so weird here. Man, I got a big bushy beard today. How's everybody doing today? All right, this is uh what you're reading and a back issue bonanza. So that means it's going to be comics that I've read and then some back issues that I bought. Usually once a month I put it in an order, and then when it gets to a certain amount to justify the shipping, I buy some back issues. So that's what we do. And as usual, I filibuster a little bit until we got some people watching. Ernest, how you doing? I love that Daredevil. I always look forward to the show. So what you reading? Oh, thank you. Oh, you know what? You know what? I'm in a talking mood. I'm in a good mood. So I'm going to throw out a link if anybody wants to. I just enjoy talking with other people. So excuse me, if anybody wants to pop in, I'll star that right there. Remember, if I don't know who you are, you got to have a camera. Even if I do know who you are, you got to have a camera. I just like talking to faces. I don't want to talk to cartoon pictures or stuff like that. You know, we're adults. Have a conversation like an adult. So there you go. Ben Sabar, how you doing? How you doing, Ben? I got your email. I responded to your email. Thank you. I can never pronounce this. Uluwafemi, how you doing? I had a very good week. I had a very good week. My job winded down at the hospital, and I went to another job. That's the way construction is. Uh, and I was kind of pissed. I was kind of pissed, to be honest, because you get comfortable in a place, but this new job, it's easier to get to. I can wake up an hour later. So instead of waking up at 4 in the morning, I'm waking up at 5, and I'm still getting to work an hour early. I mean, I could wake up at 5:30, but that would be pushing it. Probably be traffic. I have to drive to this job, so I'm actually driving like the same distance that I drove from my last job. But oh man, but there's only like 3 guys on this job, so I'm going from a job with like 100 of electricians to a job with only 3 guys, and we just have like a task, and when we finish that task, we leave. I'm whispering like my boss could hear. Oh man, it is so good. You know, we just take like a quick little lunch, but man, it is like one of those shops where you need a new bandsaw blade, and it's just like we don't have one. You know, so it's like I haven't carried a hacksaw in like 15 years. You know, so I got to start carrying a hacksaw because as a backup for when the bandsaw blade breaks. Like yesterday, I was looking for a pilot bit, and I had to look all over the place for a pilot bit. You know, kind of thing. But I like the guy I'm working with. Uh, I met another guy today. It's pretty cool. I haven't worked in a small shop in a while. This is like real electrician stuff. So it's like one day you're like we were pulling high voltage wire throughout the building, and then like without tuggers or anything, old fashioned ropes, ropes and muscles. Oh my god, what I got such a workout for the past 2 days. And then today we're doing we're landing the wires, high voltage wires, into live high voltage. This is stuff my big shop wouldn't do. You know what I mean? And it's kind of nerve wracking. So it's like today we cleared out this area of all debris. We had to open up, and it's live for 480 volts, 277 amps, just right there. And you got to splice the wire and land, you know what I mean? This is like real electrician stuff. Haven't done stuff like this in a couple of years. It's kind of fun, kind of fun. Big shop experience is something that every electrician should do. Because in the big shop, everything's compartmentalized. It kind of could get boring after a while because you could be the guy who just runs 3/4 pipe, and then you do like there's 2 ways in a big shop. Either you go in an area and you do a little bit of everything in the area, or you're just the crew that is the BX crew, or you're just the pipe the wire pulling crew, or you're the pipe bending crew. You know what I mean? And you do that for like 2 years, 3 years, however long the job lasts, and you get kind of bored with it. Some people love that because it's the same thing every day. I kind of get bored after a while. So this is just every day. You don't know what's going to happen. Every day it's something interesting. It's something new. It's kind of fun. It's also 40 hours a week instead of 5 hours. Instead of 35 hours a week. Normal jobs are 35-hour weeks, and I'm home earlier. Oh God, it's great. Hey, Arkham, how you doing? You hear me? I can't hear you.
Am I in?
Yeah, you're in. You're in.
Oh, okay.
How you doing?
Oh,
I
there we
was
go,
just
brother.
talking about my new job. I was just saying I had a good. The weird thing is, this shop we get paid on Saturdays. We get direct deposit, so I
So it
get
comes in a
paid
little
on
early.
Saturdays. That's kind of weird. I usually wake up Friday morning, you get your pay, and then I come home on Friday nights and I do my weekly bills.
John,
So
that
that's
coffee next to this comic scared the shit out of me, dude. I just saw a giant cup of coffee. I see their bagged and board, but there's a part of me that instantly just I'm like pushing the mic away, like the mic did something to me.
you know what's funny? Now
Yeah.
you just reminded me of something. In college, I dated a girl who owned a comic book store. A
Mhm.
woman. She was older than me, and she would, every once in a while, she'd be like, "Here's some comics." Like they literally had so many comics they couldn't fit them in the store anymore. And she gave me an entire run of Power Man Iron Fist. Like from
Oh,
like
that's a
you know, and I would read, and I take the tape off and I pull the comic out, and she would make that face. No, you got to take the tape off. I'm like, no, I just pull it out. She goes, one of these days, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one of these days you're gonna be sorry. And about 5 years later, I got sorry. Something stuck to the back of an
It
expensive
happened to me
comic.
too. It wasn't a big one. It was Punisher issue 1 of the limited series because I was going to take them out and reread them, and whip right on the back. I'm like, well, there goes that.
Yeah, so now I take it off. Oh, I was thinking of making a silly short video of how to properly bag and board but you got to use this particular tape, the Scotch clear tape. You gotta put it horizontal. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you put the comic on the shiny side of the board. The flat side of the board goes over here, and there you go. So it slightly curves like this. That's the way you bag and board a comic.
John,
I'm gonna say hello to everybody, and then
oh,
I'm
of
gonna go
course.
through my stack of comics, and then at 8:30 we have It's Clobbering Time. That's another open invite. Mike Barron is going to show up. I think Marcus is working overtime. I don't think he's going to show up. He said he'll try if he can. And
Well, in that case, John, I'm gonna come back for that show because I'm gonna go
sure.
hit the gym while it's still not packed because at 5:30 everyone goes there, so I want to hit there a
Oh,
little
so you're going to
earlier.
leave now and come back?
Yeah, I'm gonna come back for clobbering time.
Okay.
I guess one of the guys in there, Tim, was saying there's no superhero comics out there right now that are good. Trust me, brother. Yeah, there's Tim right there. There are plenty. Pick up Space Ghost by Dynasty right now.
I'm so curious to pick that up.
It's good. It is one of the best father figure books I've read in a very, very, very long time. And it's shocking because he's an adopted father. And it's so well done.
Oh, I
Very
got
well
to check it out.
Very good. All right, guys, I'm going to take off. I'll see you back for
Yeah.
clobbering time. Bye-bye.
Tim Olson, one thing I forgot to mention about Western comics, it's not a love variety. Yes, it is really weird that in American comics, it's superheroes, a little bit of like fantasy, some crime, but that's it. It's not really. It really is a shame that there's not a lot of genres. Sci-fi is big too. It's a John whose box is long. Yep, or is it long in the box? Tim, you are so wrong. What would be the polar opposite? Jack B. Short box. There you go. That's my sidekick. Q. Okay, you guys just having a conversation. I could skip all that. Sounds like the new job excites you. Yeah. I'm a paradox. I'm a rebel daddy, a loner. I like things to be stable, but then after a while, that gets stale. So Friday, when I was just like, "You're going to another job," I was livid. I was livid. I was like, I couldn't sleep Friday night. I was like pissed. I don't know if you saw my videos, but I try not to bring real work into these videos. These videos are an escape. You know what I mean? So I was just livid. And then I by Wednesday, I'm like, I like this. This is kind of fun. I always, whenever you go to a new job, so I don't know how many of you guys have an office where you go to the same job every day. I dated a girl that worked in an office, and for 17 years she shared a desk with a woman that she hates, and she says they just don't talk to each other. I couldn't imagine that. One of the best things about my job is you meet a million people, one of the worst things about my job is you say goodbye to a million people. My brother is in the same job as me. His best man was his partner at work. They worked together for 3 years, and then that job ended. And he says they barely see each other because life gets in the way. You work across in different parts of the 5 boroughs. But so but I was nervous. I couldn't sleep. I even on the best, when you go to another job, I get nervous. What's there? What are they going to ask me to do? Because there's so much in electricity that you can't possibly know it. And out of all the fields, like plumbing, the trades, electricity changes the most. So you'd never ever know everything. And then, like, of course, like, what do you don't know how to do this? We should call a good electrician. You know what I mean? So you always hear stuff like that. But so you get nervous. Like, do I know? Am I going to know what to do? Is what are the conditions? So and then the first day you're nervous. You don't talk much. And now I'm like, this is pretty cool. I could dig this. The only thing is, it stinks. It smells so bad. John is still rolling when I get back off the gym. Okay, cool. Biggest reason mangas yes, because of variety. Yeah, variety, and they're good. Japan doesn't play this. We're going to restart Kamala Khan. If Kamala Khan doesn't sell, if Miss Marvel doesn't sell, if Captain Marvel or Carol Danvers doesn't sell, it's gone. They take a scythe to it. Pure meritocracy. Pure meritocracy. Hey, having a blessed day. I had a very good day. Very good day. Just had a big bowl of chili. Hey, RJ. Arkham, John took the first appearance of Falcon to work one day. His coffee is up. Oh, yeah, I told that story, right? This guy, he was like, could you put that comic away? Greetings from Raleigh, North Carolina. Face. I can never read KO Joe's text. No offense. I know that guy. Nexus for Silver Surfer. Yeah, that's clobbering time at 8:30. I'll be at a meeting when Mike comes on. Say hello to me. Okay. Why does it have to be a comic book with morals? Comics with morals are the best. I don't read them for a teachable. I need them to be entertained. Yep. You guys are fighting. Yeah, and no reboots. Absolutely no reboots. And it's easy to get. There's no like 16 number ones. Fantastic Four number one. Well, which one? There's 7 now. It's usually the same creator. So there's consistency, and I think this is the biggest selling point for manga. There's a beginning, a middle, an end. There's a conclusion. There's a satisfying arc and a conclusion in manga. I'm sure I'm ignorant, and I'm sure that there's some manga that's been going on for 50 years that's never going to end, that has like an American style model. But from what I know, like Full Metal Alchemist had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Things like that. Aspirational character is nice, but you don't need to preach. Yes, you don't need it. You don't need it. Like, that was one of my things that I've been holding off on seeing the Superman movie. I don't want to be preached to. I don't want to be preached to my politics. I don't want anybody to preach my side of the politics, and I definitely don't want anybody to preach other side of the politics. And I'm not saying you can't have other side of the politics in it. Just don't make it preachy, But anyway, now that I'm all caught up, now that a lot of people are in, hey, Oscar's here. Oscar, I hope Rob Liefeld takes my recommendation to you seriously. That would be such bragging rights to say my colorist now works for Rob Liefeld, and then that would be great for your career. That would be awesome. Superman is good. Yeah, I'm seeing it Sunday. My wife and I already bought the tickets. We're going to see it Sunday after Sunday Comics. From the generation that let TV raise their kids. Yep. And here is, if anybody wants to pop in, and we could talk comics while I go for this. So anyway, this is from that collection that I bought. Oh, geez. I'm going to say 20 years ago. Yeah, I'm going to say roughly 20 years ago. Before I was an electrician, I bought this collection. It was pretty much when I first started teaching. It was before I got my first paycheck as teaching. I remember that because I was broke and I had to borrow money for gas. My father, you bought comic books and you didn't have money for gas. So that was probably like 23 years ago. And now I'm finally reading them. So this is Hulk 130. This is the Herb Trimpe run. At this point, it's Roy Thomas writing, and it's not that much better than the Stan Lee run. I'm honestly wondering how Hulk was so popular. I think now Hulk is super popular, but I think at this time, if anybody is my age or knows or is a comic historian, I don't think Hulk was like I think he was like a C-list character at this point because these comics are kind of mature and they keep bringing in guest stars. That's always a sign. Hold your fire, man! It's all over. The Hulk is it. And every issue just ends up with Thunderbolt Ross in the military just fighting the Hulk, and he's fighting the military. It's they're just like I said, they're just run of the mill. This was kind of interesting. So I think this issue debuted Jim Wilson, Hulk's sidekick. He's a black orphan, so he's like Black Rick Jones. And this issue, the Hydra kidnaps Jim Wilson, and then Hulk goes, and then Hydra's like, "You hate the army, we hate the army. Let's fight." And let's fight the army. And Hulk realizes he's being manipulated. There's something about these uniforms. I just love these uniforms. What is this? Oh, this one is really bizarre. So at the end of the last issue, Hulk just falls asleep in a shipping container. He just goes to sleep in a shipping container and wakes up in this small Mediterranean country, like a I don't know where, like must be near Latvia or something like that, the way they're just. And there's this dictator Draxton, and Draxon. Hulk fights Draxon, and then he's like, "I like it here. It's just cows and meadows," and he stays. And what do? A little girl. It's like retelling Frankenstein. A little girl befriends him, and she thinks he's the Golem. And they, the Judah Ben Joseph, the Golem of Prague, or Budapest. I forget. I read the book and I can't remember. But anyway, so he goes and fights the dictator and brings peace to the land. And then he gets abducted by Kang because Kang needs him to fight. There's a time storm, and Kang can't get to 1971 because there's a time storm. So he abducts the Hulk and has the Hulk fight the time storm for him. It's just like they're not that great. So okay, so that's the end of the Hulk. So I got 136 over here, and now these are the Dan Slott Fantastic Fours. Let me address the chat. No, you didn't piss anybody off. You didn't piss anybody off, Tim. It would be so awesome if Oscar colors for Rob. Yeah, we're all rooting for Oscar. Hulk was the kind of a kid character, but not pandering audience. Yeah. When Chuck Dixon talks about 70s comics weren't that great, I imagine these Hulks are what he's talking about. They're not that great. They're not that great. I don't remember having a Hulk comic until Peter David and Dale Keown run. Yeah, that's pretty much when Hulk started taking off. Yeah, I think Hulk was just like comic of the week until the Peter David run. I've been talking comics for a long time, and I really don't hear people talking about like the pre-Peter David run of Hulks. So I think you're right, Oscar. Hulk, a C-list character back in the day, no lies detected. Yeah. But I love when crossover with Spider-Man or battles the Thing. Yeah, they do. When I used to collect when Hulk fought the Thing, that was like my favorite. Now, if you don't feel bad, Story time with friends. How you doing? Yeah, don't worry. It's all good. It's all good. So now this is the 6th run of the Fantastic Four. I quit the Fantastic Four in 2015. I think a series ended, and I was like, okay, that's a good dropping off point. But I love the Fantastic Four. They're still my favorite comic. So I stopped right before James Robinson took over, and I think he did 14-issue run. So I was like, I'm going to get this 14-issue run. And I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. It was too long of a story. Like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby would have told that in 2 issues. But that's the way it is in modern comics. And the James Robinson story, all the real world complaints, like how the hell does the Fantastic Four launch spaceships in the middle of Manhattan? How does the Fantastic Four have a negative zone portal in the middle of Manhattan? Well, they get in trouble for all of that. and their family gets taken away, and they get kicked out of the apartment, and the government comes. And then you realize, man, this sucks. I don't want the government. Yeah, I don't want it to be too realistic. You know what I mean? They're the Fantastic Four. Of course, they get to do it. They're different. And then it gets resolved. So the first couple issues, I didn't like it because it was just so like dreary. Real world consequences on the Fantastic Four. You don't really want that. But he pulled it together nicely. You saw it was being manipulated by a long forgotten rival, a guy who hated Reed Richards. And he pulled it together and then ended. And now the Dan Slott took over. And I know Dan Slott gets a lot of crap for his behavior, and justifiably so, but man, could he write comics. These are excellent. These are really, really good. So before I flip these, I see a couple of comments. The FF with Wade and Rango and Hickman are awesome. Absolutely. I agree. John, the FF versus the Four. Who are the Four? Is that from Planetary? Or is it something from the Boys TV show that I wouldn't know? Why not add some real world to keep it? I agree. I want to put some real world into my comics. So like I say, it's Bronze Age inspired, but then I want to put a little bit of real world, but I don't want to quite make it the Boys. You know what I mean? Like I want to make it a little bit real world, like a little bit more realistic, like consequences to the superpowers and weaknesses and things like that. Like the government's kind of heavy involved in superheroes, like because I think they would be. Things like that. But I still ultimately want it to be like a Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man type of comic, and they're all fantastic things. Like I almost gave a big spoiler, but things like that in the comic. So real world, a little bit dash more real world, but not Watchmen. That's too much. But I really, really like this. I really do like this. So this is a group. They're called the Fantastics, and they're a group of superheroes, but they're really doing it for Instagram attention, and they figure out that everything is a setup, everything about it, that the villains were hired, and they basically embarrassed them on their first mission. The Fantastic Four showed up and like, we're real heroes, and the Fantastics are Instagram, like Johnny Somali type guys. It was a good twist on a comic. Oh, the Planetary Four. I got to go with the Fantastic Four. I love the Fantastic Four. Like the Planetary Four. For those of you who don't know what Tony Grigo's talking about, there's a comic called Planetary that I absolutely love. I recommend it to anybody. It's a comic book lover's comic. I think I did issue number 1 on a Sunday Comics a long time ago. I should break out another Sunday Comics, but it's so good. It is really, really good. And spoiler alert: the main bad guys who set up everything are the Four. They're evil Fantastic Four version of the Fantastic Four. But I just don't get the feeling that their Reed Richards was as intelligent as this Reed Richards. Like their feats, like they went to a lot of effort for such small payoffs. So I think this Reed Richards effortlessly pulls miracles out of his butt. So I think the Fantastic Four beats Planetary's the Four. Where's this comment? Where did it go? Where'd it go? The planet. Okay, so here's the next. Opening a portal in Manhattan we could overlook, but getting 2 big gulps for the thing is too much. What are the other floors of the Baxter building not occupied? Offices, apartments. They never really say. The real Baxter building, I didn't realize it was called the Merchant Building, and I worked in that building. Marvel Comics was in that building for a while, and it was all offices. So I just imagine it's probably office buildings, maybe residential. I don't know. Got hyped for the Fantastic Four. The more I'm hearing about the Fantastic Four, the less hype I'm here. I don't know. I want it to be good. But my gut is telling me it's not going to be good. And I'm not one of these party clowns, that your boy Zach talks about. I'm actually rooting for it to be good, but I just my spidey sense is tingling. Why do you think trying to reinvent all the eras of comics would hold? Do you think trying to reinvent old eras of comics is holding Western comics back? No, no, not at all. What I think is holding Western comics back is the comics being crap. Uh, Political correctness, identity politics, preaching, uh, bad talent, not listening to the sales, not listening to the customers. Um, I mean, why not copy the Bronze Age of Marvel? It was printing money. It was the best. Look at all the movies. The movies, all the successful movies are based on Bronze Age Marvel stories. So why not copy when comics were good? In my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think. I think it's just high price, low accessibility, and then crappy comics is what's killing Western comics. Sounds realistic. I can tell you that most firefighters are more like Guy Gardner movie. I don't know him from the Superman. Yeah, I always thought Guy Gardner and Lobo were how nerds envisioned cool people would behave. you know, for instance, older lovers love anti-heroes but don't like anti-villains. I don't know. I got to think about that. I got to think about that. I don't know. Hey, John. Hi, Omnipro. You got to tell us more stories from when you worked at Marvel. That's not really a lot because I'd go there and just do electrical stuff and just everybody's miserable faces. The carpet stunk like mold. The lights were flickering. You know, there was like a million people compressed into it in per area. It was just like it was like 2 floors of people pushed into one floor. It just looked miserable. It just looked miserable. Why? You can't go backwards. Um, you can't go backwards, but you can copy when things were good. Like should we not try to make movies with less CGI and practical effects, like the original Star Wars? Should we never do that again? Should we only progress and forget about things in the past? Like, should we, only use, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with copying what worked, but if it doesn't work, drop it, and then find something that works. But sticking to something because it's politically correct to do it that way, that's killing comics. But if you want to try good storytelling, top talent, strong editorial continuity, I think that would only help comics. That's me. So here is The Wedding of Ben Grimm and Alicia Masters, and this was excellent. This was an excellent comic. Oh my God, it gave me the feels. It was so good. We had different artists. This Mark Allred, who did Madman, one of my favorite artists. It was very satisfying, very satisfying. And then, of course, at the end, Doctor Doom and Galactus. Oh, we got it. How you doing, Tim?
Hi, sorry, I had a very strong opinion about things. People are in this chat. People
Okay.
are talking about stuff. Just you hear things and then you start. Bottom line is, yeah, going back and kind of reinventing these eras are going to get the old readers, but is it going to get you new readers?
The only way to get new readers,
right? But is that gonna resonate with new readers though? Right?
I'm biased, so keep that.
Yeah, we're all a little biased in our own
right.
way.
I'm biased. But I think what's going to get new readers is you got to get comics out of the comic stores. You got to get them in kids' hands. Little kids can't drive to comic book stores. Little kids can't take the bus to comic book stores. Comic book stores are closing and they're harder and harder to get to. And I know the stereotype is out there. I've been getting attacked lately for talking to generalities, but we've been talking to generalities for millennia, and all of a sudden,
the internet's full of generalities.
Right. Remember back in 2018 when people made their faction in comic books well known by talking about how bad the mainstream was? We all knew that there were good mainstream comics, but nowadays, when we talk about the people who used to talk in generalities, we have to be specific because it's not a cult or anything. But anyway,
you can't be Atlantic.
Right. Little kids are not welcome in comic book stores.
Yeah. But why is manga resonating with them and not Western comics?
Because There's cartoons all over the place
Right.
that are
But
excellent.
there's a variety
There's a variety
idea.
of them.
There's something.
They're
Yeah.
cheap. They're cheap for what they are. What are they? $10, and you can get a 100-page book.
Yeah, you can get several volumes in one.
You know what I
book.
mean? And they're easy. I want to get One Piece. Oh, where do I start with One Piece 1? And,
Volume 1, yeah.
Yeah. And it's easy, it's accessible. It's great talents, great writers. These mangakatas, is that what they're called? I'm not the best manga.
Well, manga just means, I guess, comic book,
but you know what I mean? It's high talented people, passionate
it's
about
different.
it. And by the
different.
time it comes to America,
Right.
it survived the cullings. So I'm sure there's bad manga in Japan.
Oh, I'm sure there is. There has to be.
Right. What do they call them? Shonens, big magazines, big phone books. And
that's another thing. They have anthology books.
Right. Right. So by the time it gets to America, we're getting the cream of the crop. And bookstores, Amazon, you're not going to go on Amazon to get issue 6 of Fantastic Four Series 6.
No, I like the hunt for things that go in my collection.
Yeah,
I
me
don't
too.
mind that. But
I have my own money in a car.
Yeah. Well, there's also like Amazon, and you can order. Well, no kids aren't going to be able to do that. But I guess some old ideas would work. Like getting books back in stores.
Right. Comic books. I got into 2 friendly arguments this week with people that are and I said comic books are a luxury and they should be you should make it easy for people to impulse buy. A lot of these websites, you got to click here, then you got to put in your cart, then you got to go back here, then nope. Like I tried to buy 3 comics this week to finish off a series. I couldn't figure out. I'm a guy who sells comics online. I'm a guy who does this, and I couldn't figure out how to buy these 3 comics. So I messaged the guy. I said, it's really, it's simple. It's easy peasy. And he gave me like a wall of text. I'm like, I'm buying a comic book. Make it as easy as possible. So.
Well, I think also, say what you will. A lot of people kind of bitch and moan about the 90s, but at least in the 90s, you would like, you don't like Marvel, well, then there's Image. You don't like Image, there's DC. If you don't, you don't like those 3, there's Dark Horse. There's, this and this and this. And now it's back to just 2.
Right.
Marvel and DC and maybe Image.
I want to address what Storytime with Friends says. Part of the issue is discovery. 99.5 won't encounter comic book. Right. You know how many comics my mom would go buy cigarettes at the 7-Eleven. There was a spinner rack there. You know how many comics it just caught my eye, And then I remember Kent Kings were $1.75. So she always had a quarter. So I would strategically go with my mom because I knew she was buying cigarettes and she would always have a quarter, and comic books were a quarter at the time,
Yeah, Oscar has a point though too, and there are like millions of manga titles with 2% the market are overwhelmed. Yeah.
I saw it. I'm sorry, I got distracted by I saw an analysis of the Diamond debacle by Comic Book Store. He estimated there are only about 1,200. Yeah. I heard about that. I remember back when I started watching your boy Zach. He would say that there was 2,000 comic book stores. I'm not going to argue. You're probably right that there's only,
some stores don't have magazines in them at all anymore.
Anime.
They don't have any magazines or
Bats.
novels.
This is an excellent point, Bats. You could go and watch these animes and then see advertisements for the comics. The Marvel movies should, you go to see the Marvel movies and there's credits before, there should be commercials for comic books before every Marvel movie, before every DC movie.
I think there should be a difference between the movies and the comic book.
Right, but they should let you know that there still are comics. Like, how many people at work they still make comics?
Yeah.
If you read Power Pack, I'm one of the few people that has a complete Power Pack run. Man,
Power Pack was in a sorry.
I was gonna say I don't know what's going on lately, but I love it. I can't keep up with the chat anymore. Like all of a sudden, the past 2 weeks. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I remember my brother had a Marvel Summer Spectacular and it had Power Pack in it.
What's the corporate are waiting for it? Oh, yeah, we had 2 decades of right. We Chuck Dixon says this a lot, that we had 2 generations that just didn't get comics. There's almost no recovering from that. Wow, I'm caught up in the comments. There's a lot of niche stuff in anime, so it tracks. Yes. And somebody said, yeah, Bat said this. Their bad stuff sells. Yeah, mainstream American Western comics wish they sold as good as bad manga. Oh, we're getting right to the controversial stuff. Thank you, Tony Grigo. This just means to me that you didn't go to the Frontier, you did not get a Frontier burrito, and you're trying to start trouble. If you had a Frontier burrito, you'd be satisfied with everything in life. Tony Grigo lives by my favorite diner, the Frontier Diner in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Oh my God!
I would travel to where you live just to have a Frontier burrito now.
Oh yeah. I'm in New York. Unfortunately, the Frontier burrito is in Arizona, is in New Mexico.
Well, damn it!
And here's how disgusting I am that me and my wife are planning a tour of Albuquerque just to so she can finally go to all the places that I still talk about, and I haven't been there since in 24 years. John, do you think they will ever release the Epstein list? There is no Epstein list, and you're crazy for even suggesting it. You're a crackpot. You're insane, and all of a sudden, there's a DOJ. I'm a Trump guy, and it's one thing I've learned in my past 10 years, and I'm learning every day online, is nobody is real. Everybody's fake, and that includes the guys I like. Like Trump was my guy, but I still don't think he's perfect, and I would vote for him again. I think if Kamala Harris was president, I'd be out of work. It would just be insane because right now there's no furloughs, there's no waiting. My industry is booming. What a coincidence! While Trump was president, my industry was booming. We didn't have any furloughs. Then all of a sudden, Joe Biden becomes president. We have 12-week furloughs. I'm out of work for a quarter of the year, and then Trump gets elected again. There's no furloughs. What a weird coincidence! Isn't that a weird coincidence? Yeah. You know.
Oh, so I'm sorry. I was going to get.
So let me just say, so I like Trump. I would vote for him again, but I think his handling of the Epstein case is just bumbling. What he should have said is, it's very sensitive, and we're figuring out how to proceed. Yeah. And just leave it at that. It's very it's. He should have said it is a bigger deal than we thought, and we are trying to figure out. Because if lawsuits are going to be involved, we can't talk about it. We can't tip our hand. I think people would have bought that. But this is he handled it. This could cost, the whole MAGA movement. But I don't want to talk about politics anymore.
Yeah.
If I was trying to save comics, everyone would have gotten Superman comic with their popcorn. There you go. Story time with friends. Is this? Are you Edwin Boyette? Is this Edwin Boyette?
Yeah, he's Edwin Boyette.
Okay, it is Edwin Boyette. Edwin, I've been saying this from day one. When I went to see Batman '89, there was Batman comics in the movie theater. What is going on with Marvel? It's almost as if Marvel doesn't want to sell comics.
Marvel likes to run things into the ground, so as long as the movies are generating interest, they're going to run that in. Just like what they did with when they did the comic book series. Remember when they did Infinity Gauntlet?
Right.
Big hit, right? So they did Infinity War, and then they did Infinity Crusade, or like Marvel Zombies 2, Marvel Zombies 3. Marvel Zombies 4, etc., etc. They run things into the ground. The Spider-Man clones is another good example.
I mean, Zach Ted has a really good point. It should have been relatively easy to make tie-in comics to movies similar to Star Wars comics. That Star Wars comic, Jim Shooter confirmed it when he was on my channel, that Star Wars comic saved Marvel from bankruptcy. Why couldn't they make Matrix comics?
Another thing, though, too, is... sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, it's okay.
The Star Wars comic series went in its own direction for a while until Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
And then it went on its own direction again until Return of the Jedi. Transformer comic books had its own continuity that was different than the cartoon, and so did G.I. Joe.
Right. Absolutely. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I know J.K. Rowling doesn't want Harry Potter comics, but that would have been a natural. Oh, my God. Harry Potter comics would have been printing money. But why not Hunger Games comics?
Why not Fellowship of the Rings?
I don't think Tolkien wants. I don't think the Tolkien estate wants that. Actually, Chuck Dixon has a Hobbit comic, and the Hobbit comic, they found a rough draft of the Hobbit that's in the Library of Congress that wasn't trademarked. So so they were going to do it, and the Tolkien estate reluctantly gave them permission to do it, and got a royalty because they were going to do it anyway.
Yeah, well, they could. I mean, the older version can't be copywritten or
Right. So that was like a loophole. But the Tolkien estate. But I'm thinking like J.R. Martin, like an adult series of Game of Thrones comics, with nudity and violence, stuff like that. Like, yeah, Marvel wouldn't have done it, but like
now they would have.
like,
they just put TV. They just put mature rating on the book cover.
Right
Not
now.
meant for kids.
Remember they always, like, right now I found this in my collection of unread comics, For Your Eyes Only, James Bond tie-in. Make those. I'm trying to think, like, all these horror movies, like these crossover horror movies, they're perfect for comics.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. Tony Grigo, have I read? I haven't read them. No, I haven't read manga since the 80s. Like Lone Wolf and Cub and Maya the Psychic Girl and Area
I think the
80.
ones I first saw anime wise was Ghost in the Shell, Ninja Scroll, and Fist of the North Star. That was freaking awesome.
Yeah, Fist of the North Star. I remember that. I
Punch
believe
somebody in the
comic
face and their head would explode.
Zach Penn and Omnipro, they're absolutely right. Like I would really like to, like, this will get. I'll change what I was going to say because I don't need to get my video taken off. But like, I would like to just trap the honchos over at Marvel Comics and just be like, what are you doing? Like, they can't escape. Lock the doors, and just be like, we're going to sit down. We're going to talk for 2 hours, and you're going to explain to me,
The problem. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The problem is they no longer care. That's the thing. And what saved comic books was, we didn't do anything to save comic books. It was the investors that saved comic books, because our entertainment anyway. That's why it's going. That's why it's swinging back the other way. It was the investors that saved comic books, or entertainment anyway.
All right, so I'm just going to continue with. So this was interesting. Dr. Doom lured Galactus to Earth so he could defeat him and succeed with Richards. It's actually a pretty good Dr. Doom, but of course Dr. Doom overestimated things. He made his own herald that I don't want to spoil it, but these are really, really good. And here you see Galactus fighting the Fantastic Four, Dr. Doom. This Reed Richards is decisive. Sue is a loving mom, who supports her husband. She gets frustrated with them, and Ben is in character. And Johnny Storm, I love this. I actually smiled when I read it. Dr. Doom creates this woman. She abused this woman with like a power cosmic, but of course he doesn't tell this woman that she's now siphoning off power from Galactus. So Galactus is like, I got to figure out, so she's the beacon. She doesn't realize this. She speaks up, and Johnny Storm is just hitting on her as he's fighting her. And she's like, you think, you're over there in America with your perfect hair and your easy life, and you think you know what I have to go through. And Johnny Storm goes, you like my hair? Like, I thought that was so, like, that's what Johnny Storm gets out of that comment. Like, and he says to Ben, she likes me. I'm wearing her down. And I do like Johnny Storm is starting to like reevaluate his life. Like, he sees Ben getting married to Alicia, and he's just going through all of his failed romance. Johnny Storm's always been my least favorite of the Fantastic Four because he has the least pathos. He's got a cool power. He's good looking. He can control his power. So I'm really liking how he's using the Human Torch in this comic. It's doing pretty good. He's making me like. I don't dislike Johnny Storm, but he was my least favorite out of my favorite. This is the woman over here with the power. Yeah, she's beating up Johnny Storm over here. And I don't want to spoil how he defeats her or how they defeat her. But this every writer, I think except for James Robinson in his 14-issue series, I don't think he used Galactus and Dr. Doom. But it's almost like a trope at this point. You take over the Fantastic Four, you got to tell your Dr. Doom, your Galactus. You take over Batman, you got to do your Joker story. But like it or not, Dan Slott is a good comic book writer. I know he's a jerk. He caused problems, but I got to give credit. Like Mark Waid was an excellent comic book writer. I don't know about it anymore, but in the day, Mark Waid was an excellent comic book writer.
Well, Kingdom Come was a masterpiece.
Yeah, Kingdom Come is one of the inspirations for my comic Heroic Tale, or at least the Patriarch. Not Heroic Tales, but one of the inspirations for the Patriarch, like the Superman as the father figure. And I'm like, that's what I want to do with the superhero. If you want to read manga, read Dan, or see the anime on. Oh, I don't see this. This is all new to me. I don't know that much manga. I'm an old Fist of the North Star was crazy. It's clobbering time. Doctor Who versus Galactus. Well, Doctor Who, like, he excels at beating like these super high powered omnipotent beings, you know. So I could see Doctor Who outsmarting Galactus, you know. At least the old Doctor Who's not. I stopped watching Doctor Who when in the middle of that female doctor, that what was it, the Endless Child, when we found out that the original doctor was a fat black woman who couldn't run down the street without getting winded, you know. And one of Doctor Who's catchphrases is "run," you know, unless you're a 68-year-old obese black woman, in which case you don't need to run. People just need to listen to you when you talk. I don't know what happened. Did everybody Yep, that sounds like Johnny. Okay. Did everything freeze for a second? Because everything got a little weird over here.
Can everybody
hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. The price point of comics today is exorbitant for tweens and teens. Publishers have to get to find. Yep. I don't think they'll ever get back down to $1 or $2, but one of the problems, and I was talking about it last week, was I went through a modern comic and all the advertisements are Marvel ads. There's no, you know, Fun Factory. There's no Sega Genesis ads or Evil Knievel toys. You know, they got to get ads down, and that subsidized the comics to make it cheap for kids. So they got it. But the thing is, what company is going to advertise in comic books? It's not worth it anymore. You know, it's a catch-22. So we gotta like, if I was if wishes were fishes, you know.
Yeah.
I did read them.
You know what? If we were to switch the music and talk about what got certain subgenres attention, the black metal scene in Norway, which I'm not a bit, I find it kind of cringy myself, but it got attention by just trading around tapes.
Yeah. Yep.
So why can't we use that idea and make little tiny ash cans and for people to trade around?
We were talking about this just the other day, right? Yeah, that's good. I think that's fun. The problem is I'm not going to trade comics because they're too expensive. You know what I mean? But it's funny because I forget. Somebody wanted to trade comics with me, and I was like, "Well, what comics do you want?" It's like, "Okay, I'll trade you this." I went and bought them, and mailed it to him because I wasn't going to give my copies because then I don't have those copies anymore. This is Saga. This is a comic that was on the chopping block for a long time. They put it on hold, and they brought it back. I think going on hold and recharging your batteries is a good idea because it's kind of fun again. It's kind of fun again. I'm very forgiving to this comic is just self-indulgence. The comic. This is just like progressivism. The comic, but it almost like people praise it for its world building. Its world building makes absolutely no sense. The character designs kind of make no sense, but the characterization is pretty good. And I used to exchange emails with Brian K. Vaughan back in the early 2000s, you know, so that goes a long way too. But they took, I think, a 9-month hiatus and came back, and it's interesting again. It's interesting again. Ooh, look, it's the 69th issue, so they're doing a 69. Isn't that clever? But it's not. But this character is kind of interesting to me. He's Prince Robot, and Prince Robot has been like abandoned by his family, and now he's being raised by the single mother here, and now he's starting to get himself in trouble. Like, oh my God, is a progressive saying that like a single mother is raising a boy wrong? You know what I mean? Oh my God, this character. You can't make a spider likable. You can't. You know, I don't know. I get the feeling that she's gonna do something bad. She's like a 14-year-old girl, even though she's a spider, because they're all aliens, and she befriends the main character who's like a 14-year-old girl. But I can't shake the feeling that she's Doom coming and gonna ruin this family. And if that's not the case, then you shouldn't have picked a spider, because spiders can, with the exception of Spider-Man, but he doesn't look like this. You know, this character I like because he's just pure good. He doesn't even curse. Like he goes, "Golly gee," and he goes, "I'm sorry," and everybody's like, "It's okay." So that this is such a bittersweet comic. This is Miracle Man. Miracle Man was originally there's a long convoluted story of Miracle Man. Miracle Man is based on Marvel Man. Marvel Man was a ripoff of Captain Marvel, Shazam, but it was the British version, and Mick Anglo just made up Marvel Man. And Marvel Man says Komoda and turns into Marvel Man, and there's young Marvel Man, there's kid Marvel Man, there's Marvel Man Lady, sound familiar? And then when they brought it back to the United States, they couldn't use Marvel Man, so they turned it to Miracle Man. So that's all the background information. Alan Moore took it over and made it grim, gritty, realistic, not safe for work in the slightest. And I loved it at the time. This to me was my favorite Alan Moore story for the longest time. Very, very influential on my role-playing games. Like this is like making superheroes as realistic as possible, but I could see why some people wouldn't like it these days. Like if this came out now, I probably wouldn't like it, but it came out at my regular, rebellious time. Excuse me, I got to sneeze. Oh God. Go ahead, Tip, talk. I'm gonna sneeze and it's not coming out. It went away. So anyway,
dang it! I missed my window.
Yeah. Anyway, it was Eclipse Comics, and Eclipse Comics went kaput, and issue 24 ended on a cliffhanger. I don't want to spoil it, but Neil Gaiman took over. So Alan Moore left, Neil Gaiman took over, and Neil Gaiman just made it super progressive to the point even in the 90s, I was like, oh God, this is good. Everybody's gay and oh God. But I thought, and I still think that I don't want to spoil it, but I think that was a sinister plot is the only way. And I couldn't wait. Like, was I right? Was it a sinister plot or is everybody just gay? So it ended. So now they're bringing it back, and young Miracle Man, who's been in suspended animation all these times, he's brought out into a progressive world, and he can't handle it. So I was like, this is kind of a brilliant way to say like the old-fashioned morals, stuff like that, versus the new morals. And he's kind of rejecting it all, and I couldn't wait to finish it. So this is the Silver Age. So I started with issue 3 because issue 3 is really issue 25 of the original series, if that makes sense. So I didn't need to get issue 1 and 2 because I have the original printings. So now this is continuing where it left off, and it's really, really good. It's Neil Gaiman, and we all know about Neil Gaiman, but this was written 30 years ago. I mean, it came out a couple of years ago, and it's really good. They're explaining the story. This woman got superpowers, and she's just like casual sex, everything like that. And then she meets the old-fashioned kid. She falls in love with him, and she's becoming like a good girl. And like he can't help but like his innate goodness because he has these old-fashioned values. And I was like, wow, Neil Gaiman's going. And then, this issue came out, and he's of course fighting with the new Miracle Man because he represents all progressivism and he represents old-fashioned values. And then it's canceled because of Neil Gaiman's accusations come out, and now it's back to cliffhanger, and I'm still never going to know what's going to happen because there's no way Marvel's going to print the rest of it.
Well, I mean, I guess it's an interesting way to frame, the passing of the old guard versus the new guard, and the.
So it's so bittersweet because I'm like, finally, and I got 6 issues of the story build up, and it was like, okay, it's going to where I thought it would be. Oh. And now there's no way Marvel is ever going to touch Neil Gaiman's story again.
Well, I mean, allow me to play devil's advocate.
Sure.
As much as it's annoying to have progressive stuff just kind of, pigeonholed into a story where it doesn't fit. Like you're reading a story, all of a sudden it brings up something that out of nowhere. Like, what the hell is that?
Well,
I mean, is it just as annoying to put like blatant old school values kind of crammed into a storyline when you're trying to?
like it or not, Neil Gaiman is a skillful writer, so he didn't just cram it in. You know, he
seemed to weave it in pretty to make it pretty organic looking.
Like he put in a lot of like transgender stuff back in Sandman, and it worked because it
wasn't heavy handed, was it?
Right. The characters actually had a personality, and there was a story, and and Neil Gaiman is catching hell for this, but Foxglove was the name of it was a man transgendered into a woman, a man pretended to be a woman, and they were all going to take the moon path into the magic realms, and the moon rejected him, and he couldn't go because he wasn't really a woman.
Right.
And Neil Gaiman's trying to say, no, that's not what I'm saying. No, you said the moon doesn't accept transgender. Like you can't spell it anyway because 40 years ago you said, or at least the moon. I understand you're not the moon, but you're the but in your world, the powers that be that grant magic abilities that are sources of sorcery
and reject transgenderism.
So spin it any way you want, Neil. What does Edwin say over here? I read some of Gail Simone's new run on the Uncanny X-Men. For her, it was restrained political commentary. Oh, that's good. That's good because she can be a good writer. She has a tendency to get too silly. Yes, that's my biggest problem. That's my biggest problem with Gail Simone is she's not funny, and there's nothing worse than somebody who's not funny who thinks they're funny.
She's not likable either.
She's not likable. So I would love to get her on my channel, and I'm not going to be like a gotcha guy. I would love to have a serious conversation. Like I tried to get Heather Antos on to have a conversation.
Yeah. So would you say that putting things like that in there is okay as long as it's not too heavy-handed and it's organic?
You could do anything as long as it's done with subtlety, skill, and panache. How's that?
Yes, that sounds about right.
There was a comic, something Hollow, and I really, really liked it. And he was a right-wing guy like me. But one page, the teacher said something, and the 14-year-old girl all of a sudden became an eloquent college professor and explained eloquently why that teacher was wrong and stuff. And it took me out of the book, even though everything that girl said agreed with me, because it just was heavy. And I said that, and you could see he kind of, because, I said, I could, even though I agreed with everything she said, I could have done without the preaching, even though it was my preaching, it was my, but he was just like, yeah, no. And his reason was like, the comics are so left wing. I wanted to put, thinking like this balances that is social justice. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this black guy could kill this white guy because in 1932, this, white guy killed a black guy. That doesn't, it's individual. Like this comic is taken as an individual comic. So that individual comic preached to me. Doesn't matter that X-Men is all gay propaganda. This comic preached to me. You know what I mean? That's the way I think of it. Right. The answer is digital comics. If you save the print and shipping, you can sell them for. Yes. The kids today are all into the digital comics, but old farts like us want prints. Absolutely, Oscar.
Well, if that was the case, then why are they buying physical manga books?
Kids are weird. Kids are complicated.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I think right now people are starting to realize that you don't own anything. When you, I think a lot of people will buy something digitally and then, okay, I wasted $4. I didn't like it. Or okay, $4. I like it. Now I'm gonna really buy it.
Now I'm gonna invest in the actual physical book.
Like I pay $5 a month for Pandora because I don't want to listen to the same 6 commercials over and over and over again when I'm at work. I put on my headphones. I do what I got to do for 8 hours a day, and there's only like 4 commercials on Pandora. It drives me nuts. So I pay $5 a month. To me, it's a bargain. That $5 a month has turned into hundreds of dollars because now I'm buying more vinyl records than I've ever bought because I'm hearing bands that I never heard of before. And I know you guys are gonna laugh, but to me, Freedom Hawk is a new band. The Sword.
I've never heard of Freedom Hawk.
They're like a metal band. I don't know if you're into metal, but like the Sword.
I do like some metal, yes.
Like they're like Black Sabbathy. When I played them to one of my friends, he's like, "Yeah, this is like Black Sabbath. This is like old metal." But these records came out in like 2011, 2014. So yeah, they're 10 years old, but to me, they're new. Us adult readers and writers are writing stories way over the heads of kids nowadays. Yeah. It was rare for comics in the 70s and 80s to deal with real life events. Yeah, I like to think if you read heroic tales, a kid could read it. And
I
then
mean, a lot in the '90s, it was like about reading like a really gritty superhero book because your parents did not want you to read stuff like that.
yep, the audience
Yeah.
that reads webtoons not the same as the audience that buys manga. See, there's, for every idea that I float, everybody else tells me I'm wrong, and there's 10 other ideas. So the answer is, I think the number one answer we could all agree on is kids aren't exposed to comics.
Right.
I think manga makes up in volume. Manga could be expensive, but every kid wants McDonald's, but not every kid could drive. So how do they know about McDonald's?
Because their parents buy it for them.
Well, not only that, they see it on commercials. They turn on the TV, they see McDonald's. There's so they know about it. We got to advertise. We got to let kids know that there's comics.
Well, certain people like the Maloviches, they do Comic Cons and libraries.
Yeah, but kids aren't gonna just say, "Hey," they're gonna wake up. Maybe there's a place that sells these things about comic books that I don't know about. We got to get the word out. We got to. Stan Lee is gone, and since Stan Lee, nobody's the celebrity talking about comics. Like, I don't know, like Henry Cavill. It's not his job to sell comics, but I wouldn't have been nice for him. Like, yeah, I read Superman comics. I like Superman. I know that was Joe Quesada's idea to get celebrities to hold up comic books and take pictures. Apparently that didn't work either. So this is Battle Gods, Oscar Crano, who's in the chat. This Oscar right here, where is he? Where is it? I'm scrolling around. Where'd Oscar go? This Oscar right here, he's on the color team. He's one of the guys that did the coloring. He recommended this comic to me because we were talking about how I don't really know much about Mayan mythology. So this comic is Mayan mythology, luchadors, and Fast and Furious put into a blender. And the first issue was a little rough, but I went and reread it, and I got the style, and oh man, I'm really really liking it. And I had to ask Oscar a few questions because they use Oscar. Let me know if I'm telling this right. They don't just use like Spanish words, but they use like a Mayan words. Apparently, there's like a Mexican Mayan subculture of wrestling, and they use like not typical Spanish terms, and they put a glossary in the back. I'm really digging it. It's fun. It's fun. Look at that cover. Hot chicks on motorcycles, Mayan gods. This is like Image Comics, but good. I catch a lot of hell for saying that, but I was not a big fan of 90s Image Comics. But look at that. And then, okay, so that's all the comics that I read. These are
prepare for a nightmare, my friend. Just kidding.
What's that? I
said, prepare yourself for a nightmare, my friend.
Yeah, I know.
Kidding.
I know. What is it? Versilma audiences that read webtoons. Okay, I saw all these. I think manga makes up in volume. Manga can be expensive, but you get a lot of pages. Yeah. It's easy to gamble $10 when you're going to get 100 pages. How much is a regular comic? How much is a new Fantastic Four these days? $5.
Well, my idea would be make a Reader's Digest sized ash can and then hand that out for free. I mean, that's what kid doesn't like free, right?
Right. Again,
hand it to their parents and say, here's a comic book for your kid to read or something. I don't know.
At toy stores, I don't know.
Are there toy stores?
How's this for an idea? You buy a video game because all kids play video games these days, right? And what do you buy them online? You just download them and you get codes to free web comics.
There you go.
Like Marvel and DC should make Spider-Man fighting. I don't know what video games kids play. You know what I mean? Or teaming up with these video game characters. And now they get, literally like 50 Spider-Man comics, like, from the 70s, 80s, 90s. And they could read them or watch them, play on the screen or something like that, and get kids to be interested in comics. There you go, Marvel. We're sitting over here. We're sitting right here. There are little kids comic productions. That's why kids go into manga and see the number. Yeah, Scholastic. Marvel should get into Scholastic. I hear that in 10 years the supercar will collapse. Yeah, 10 years. Will I even be here? I'm 57. I hope.
Well, didn't they say that years ago though, and it's still here?
That would be interesting to make an app for it as well. There you go. As a man, I just don't read a lot of stories written by women. It's hard to put myself in Rogue's shoes, and I have a daughter. This is going to sound awful sexist, but I think men could write women, but women can't write men.
Am I right? Didn't they say that the comic book industry was going to collapse years ago, and it still hasn't?
Well, I think it is. It's dwindling. I don't think there's going to be an implosion, but every year there's less and less sales. I think there will always be comics in some form because there's people that just like it. But in 20 years, it's probably going to be like guys like us that just want to make comics because we make comics. You know what I mean? Like I don't make any money doing this. This is just my hobby, making comics.
Well, maybe things do like kind of die off, but come back, but not in the way you
Right.
remember.
Vinyl's making a comeback.
Yeah.
So these
punk,
are
punk was considered dead in the by the 80s, but the rise of hardcore.
Yep. 45s were big. So these are back issues. So these are comics that I did not read yet, back issues. So this is Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch. I get these because this is John Byrne's first comic book work. I think issue number 5 is John Byrne's last issue, and somebody else took over. But I think he's still doing the covers. You could look at the lines and kind of recognize John Byrne's work. I don't think this is John Byrne, but there's only 8 issues, or I think 7 issues. So I think I might have all of Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch. It wasn't that good of a cartoon. I remember it. This is Chili Storm. Back when Marvel Comics made comics aimed at women, written by Stan Lee, drawn by Stan Goldberg. Archie kind of style comics. And this is Chili Storm. She's the bad girl. This is Millie, the model. She's the good girl. And she's been officially named as Johnny Storm's cousin. So you better believe if I was writing Fantastic Four, Chili Storm would be showing up. I think it goes to 28. What is this? Shades of Blue. Why did I get this? I don't know why I got this. I think it just struck my fancy. Harris Nagin. I don't know why I got this. Did somebody recommend this? Did I order it by accident? So this is Gargoyles Dark Ages. I really like the cartoon. I'm going fast now because I got to be at comic. It's clobbering time at in 15 minutes. So this is a Mr. X comic that I didn't know I was missing. So I had to stop reading Mr. X and order this because this is the Mr. X Volume 2 ended. I read them all. This is a one-shot, and then it goes into the next series. So I got to read this next to continue Mr. X. A really bizarre series. Here are some Frankenstein New World. This is Mike Mignola. So this is the literature version of Frankenstein. Now he's traveling in this magical sea, and from the magical sea he goes into the hollow earth. I really like these. Look at these covers. It's like very heroic, and it's just Mike Mignola kind of stuff. Look at this world. So this is him. At the end of this, he emerges from this magical sea into the hollow earth. It's just pure imagination. This is another Gargoyles that I'm missing, so now I could continue to read Gargoyles. This is Precious Metals number 2, because when I talked with Adam Lawson, he said it was really good, so I got issue number 1. I liked it enough to get issue number 2. It hasn't drawn me in as much as he liked it yet, but enough that I wanted to see issue 2. His Eerie number 8. It's in a little bit worse condition than I wanted it to be in. When people say good basically means bad. But so I'm up to Eerie 8. And this is 1994, number 16. This series started out terrible. It was basically soft porn. And then slowly it got good to the point now I'm enjoying it. So this is sci-fi. This is Warren Magazine. And I don't know. This is the last. So I'm gonna close this down now. I'm gonna eat some food, and then I'll be back at 8:30, clobbering time. Mike Barron said he's gonna pop in for a half hour or so, and we're gonna do Nexus versus the Silver Surfer. Atari.
Thank you for indulging my heated debate about.
I enjoy animated comic books should be fairly little. Yep, I agree. I have some of those. Did you have the Mike Mignola Doctor Strange Doctor Doom comic? Do you have the? Oh, I forgot about that comic. That's like a big size, right? That's Marvel graphic novels, if I remember it correctly. I know I have that.
You know, Asmat had a good point, and that is there's no comic strips anymore to promote your books.
That's true. Like there's no newspapers, so there's no comic strips. Yeah, you're right about that. I haven't even thought about that in a while. Tim, you're on the right track with everything being digital nowadays. Printing is super expensive. They have to print in bulk. Go back to giant size books. Okay. Yeah, give the kids value. All right, I'm going to shut this down now, and I'll see everybody in 10, 15 minutes for it's clobber time. Bye-bye.
Peace.